Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Nick Gleeson here, aka the Bobsleigh Bloke, and today we've got a review of my first ever international race, which sadly went a little bit wrong. Before we get started, I'm going to give you a bit of a background story to what we're about to go and review. Me and Bruce Tasker and the whole GB team were starting our season off in Whistler in Canada. Whistler is notorious for being the fastest track in the world, so you've always got to have your wits about you when you're out there. Be very careful, you've got to be very diligent, and the pilot's got to be on his absolute A-game. Sadly, on the way down, things didn't go to plan. It was a little bit bumpy, a little bit hazy, and as you're about to see, we did flip upside down. So just before we get into it, I just want to give you a bit of a backstory leading up through the warm-up and how we approached the race and kind of what I'd maybe done a little bit wrong and what I was kind of feeling during the warm-up, and just take you on a bit of a personal journey, if you want to say that way, from the beginning of the warm-up to how I ended up on that block. For you gym goers out there, you all understand what pre-workout is. I'm sure some of you take enough caffeine and beta-alanine to kill a baby elephant on the daily. For me though, it's going to sound a bit weird coming from a 6'4", 110 kilo bloke, but I'm actually fairly sensitive to caffeine. I don't drink tea or coffee. Energy drinks are fairly rare for me. So when I do take things like pre-workout, it hits me like a freight train. This then gave me like massive shakes, massive tingle. I wanted to rip my face off due to the beta-alanine. A little bit of panic because I think it might have overdosed too much on caffeine and probably about to have a small heart attack. I walk myself out to the block where I meet Bruce Tasker, the pilot. I take off all my warm gear, get ready, get my feet on the block, and then the cameraman decides to zoom in on my heels. Commentators then pick up my heels shaking. They blame it on the first night nerves, which is absolutely not. It's just the fact I've got enough caffeine in me to kill a racehorse.
Placid, 19th here in the two-man a couple of years ago. In fact, last season. So
from here, this is the start of the bobsleigh race. This is the block. You've got the pilot to the left-hand side of the screen, and you've got me, the big idiot, on the back of the two-man sled. So moving forward from here then, I'm on the block. I've got Bruce Tasker, the pilot, to the left of me, as you can see on the screen, and I've got the sled in front of me. We're about to go and descend down a track. The part where we push, the push start, is between 12 and 14% of a decline. So it's fairly steep. And what goes on here is I'm on the back and I'll hit the sled as hard as possible. Bruce will then run onto the handle and then we'll hit it together, hopefully, and then push it off, down, jump in, and then that's where the fun begins.
Nick Gleeson, you saw the legs trembling there before his first ever start. I'm not surprised if he's got first night nerves, and Bruce just avoids the wall off a 484 getaway. That's
so once the push start is finished and both athletes have successfully jumped into the sled, hopefully with no errors, you go through the end timing clock, which is about 65 meters on average. The last timing marker is at 65 meters, and this is where the athletes at the top of the track get their push start times. Me and Bruce managed to push a 484, which I think was ranked 8th at the time. So for me, taking an 8th ranked push in that race, on my first ever international race, I was very, very happy with that.
Just avoids the wall off a 484 getaway. That's very quick.
So the push start, successful, both in, both safe, no errors, absolutely fine. We go straight into corner one, come out of it a little bit too far to the right, almost scuffed down the right-hand wall. Obviously, we want to try and avoid this because it takes time off of the sled, causes friction, all that good stuff.
Avoids the wall off a 484 getaway. That's very quick.
The next few corners, the commentator decides to start having a go at me because my shoulders are too high in the back. What they don't realise is that Bruce in the front is 110 kilos. Me in the back, probably about 108 kilos. We're both 6'4", 6'5". There's not a lot of room in these things. So my shoulders are a little bit more elevated than they should be.
Quick. But on this super speedway, it's about aerodynamics, and just take a look at the pictures of how much of Nick's shoulders can you see back there.
Corners 2 to 5, everything seemed to be going okay. I didn't really feel too much in the back. Bruce was doing his job. We were the right way up for now. Going around corner 6, you can see a little bit of a flop off at the end of that corner, leading into corner 7, which is a big right-hander. And then coming out of that, we have another flop off the corner.
How much of Nick's shoulders can you see back there?
Big skid there from Tasker. He's got a Swiss sled, the same as we saw with Bernd Hefty and Rico Peter.
And what do we mean when we say flop off the corner? A flop off the corner in a sled means that the sled is still too high on the end of the corner and that our body weight is shifting to the other side. So basically imagine gravity's pulling us back down on all fours, so it's doing us a bit of a favour. Otherwise, if it was the other way, we'd crash. Coming out of corner 7, you can see we come out and there's a big skid down this. They call it a straight, but it's not. It's a little bit wonky. It's a big skid. You can see the sled going, the back end of the sled kicking out to the left. And anytime the sled's going sideways, there's more friction on the runners because they're not going in a perfect straight line.
Bernd Hefty 23rd, Rico Peter tied for 3rd.
Blake, watch out.
Big skid.
Now he's in 20th now.
After that lovely skid out of corner 7, we now enter corners 8 to corners 10. So just for a reference, we go into corner 8 about 112 kilometers an hour, and we exit corner 10 about 130 kilometers an hour. So we've gained a fair bit of speed in these massive corners that are fairly sharp. So the sled is actually kept on the wall with centrifugal force, and the G-force that the athletes feel in the sled can sometimes get up to 6 and sometimes even 7 Gs. And so 1 G is 1 times your body weight, 2 Gs, 2 times your body weight, up to 6 Gs, which is 6 times your body weight on top of you, or what it feels like.
Now he's in 20th now. I can't see him making the cut the rest of the way because he's got his hands full.
Yeah, Tasker's had one two-man race here, 23rd place.
Now these G-forces are almost kind of instantaneous. They don't last very long. You sometimes see the videos of fighter pilots on YouTube where all their faces kind of sink down. We do get the same feeling sometimes, but it's more of a, you know, it's you're in and you're out.
Now, I can't see him making the cut the rest of the way because he's got his hands full.
Yeah, Tasker's had one two-man race here, 23rd place. He's not in the field.
Coming out of corner 10, things start to go wrong. We flop off the corner, we take a hit to the right-hand side of the wall, which puts us on a different line going into corner 11.
He's got his hands full.
Yeah, Tasker's had one two-man race here, 23rd place. He's not in the field.
Corners 11, 12 and 13 on this track have been renowned for being the place where you do not want to crash. And if you're going to crash, it's going to be there. The corner was named 50-50 after the late Stephen Holcomb, a former American bobsleigh pilot, because back in the day you had a 50-50 chance of getting through these corners. Yeah, I know it's not very good odds, but we're bobsleighers, we're all idiots, so we'll take it. The entrance to 50-50 was absolutely lovely. We went round like a knife through butter. It was so nice.
Two-man race here, 23rd place.
Sadly, on the exit of the corner, I think he may have held onto the steering a little bit too long and it guided us off and put us into the right-hand wall. You can just about see it off camera. We kind of nudge our way down into the corner at the bottom of the screen, which then pushes us left into a big left-hander, corner 13, and ultimately this is where our race finishes.
Here, 23rd place. He's not in the field. Teammate Brad Hall is. Oh, and he's gone. Trying to find the pace.
50 curve.
The last of our 27 sleds is the one that the track bikes. He will come across the line.
And as you can see there, we decide to headbutt the ice in the middle of the corner at about 92 miles an hour, I think, as the commentators say at the end of the clip.
Brad Hall is. Oh, and he's gone. Trying to find the pace.
50 curve.
The last of our.
So I just want to pause the video there for a minute and explain how this has happened. The unfortunate thing is that myself and Bruce are pretty heavy guys, and we have a lot of weight up top on the sled. Obviously, like with cars, the lower the centre of gravity, the more stable it is, the higher, the less stable it is. And what happened here is the sled went straight into the corner and all he wanted to do was go up. So what this meant is that our heads were on the ice and the belly of the sled was facing out from the corner. So if you were to look directly at the corner, you would be able to see the bottom of the sled and no bobsleigh helmets because we were too busy inspecting the ice with our eyeballs. Also with 170 kilo bobsleigh on top of us. After the crash has happened, there is literally not a lot you can do. Myself and Bruce, nothing we can do to help this situation. Sometimes if you're lucky, a corner can rewrite you and flip you back up and then you can continue down the rest of the course. But for this, you are literally just going way too fast for anything like that to happen. So we crash, we're upside down, we're hurting around corner 15 at about 90 odd miles an hour. I'm not counting, I'm just holding on for dear life. So we then go and zoom past the cameraman, which is quite good because it gives you an idea of how fast we're actually going upside down.
Ball is. Oh, and he's gone. Trying to find the pace. 50 curve. The last of our 20.
As you can see, coming out of corner 16, we come off the corner and our heads just go whack straight into the right-hand side of the wall. This was not comfortable at all. I remember it very vividly because it was a very, very gnarly whack. A nice example I like to use for how a bobsleigh crash feels on the head. Imagine your mum's driving you along the motorway and for some reason you get the sudden urge to put on a motorbike helmet, open the door and throw your head on the floor. I would not advise, if you ever find yourself in a bobsleigh crash, which I hope you don't, of letting go, because once you're out the back of the sled, you have got zero protection. You are exposed to the elements. It may look like a nice slip and slide and look all shiny and nice, but trust me, it's not. It's actually quite rough. So that versus bare skin, trust me, the ice will always win. Winterberg, I'm looking at you, because that's where I done mine. Corner 16 is called Thunderbird. It is the biggest, the harshest corner on the track. You're going to get a lot of G's around here. It's the fastest corner in the track, so you don't want to mess with it. We decided to mess with it. We're upside down. We'll get a little snapshot on the screen now, and you can see me hanging out the back of the sled. Obviously, we wear a protective clothing. It's called a Burns vest, and it stops any sort of friction burn or anything like that coming in through the suit from the ice. It worked absolute wonders that day and definitely saved my bacon.
Pace, 50 curve. The last of our 27 sleds is the one that the track bikes. He will come across the line, not fast enough to guarantee a second heat.
So that's it, we've made it. Not really, we haven't really made it. We've gone across the finish line, but we're upside down. What happens next? As we're going up the braking straight, which normally, if we were the right way up, I would be pulling the brakes and screaming for the top of my voice, yay Bruce, we've made it down. Unfortunately, I'm still holding on with my head grinding against the ice at about 60 miles an hour.
Medical crew.
They better watch them get the hook on.
They'll get the hooks in to stop the sled heading back down.
It's the last thing you want with your car is to get the hook on you. And
All of the medics rush out. They've got these things called hooks, and they hook on the bottom of the sled and they stop you from rolling backwards. Otherwise, all that you do, you'd go up the braking straight and you'd slide all the way back and basically become a pendulum until you find the lowest point in the course. And that's not the most pleasant experience. Trust me, I've been there. So the medics have hooked onto us. We've stopped. We're not going backwards. All these medics are screaming and shouting at us. What goes on next?
it's the last thing you want with your car is to get the hook on you. And it's the last thing you want to do here in Whistler is get the hook on you.
Well, the last thing is not to get the hooks in to start sliding backwards. Well, the medical crews have seen a few crashes in training.
As for me, the big idiot in the back, I am literally just holding on for dear life. Obviously, I'm not scared because I'm hard.
It's the last thing you want with your car is to get the hook on.
I've just been hurtling down at 92 miles an hour, grinding along the ice with my helmet, my Burns vest, my back, my shoulders all battered and bruised or whatever. And it stopped. Finally, it's over.
There's Nick Gleeson, his first ever World Cup start. He is officially now a real bobsledder. He started in the World Cup and he's been crashed.
So just because I was all caught up in the moment, all the medics were trying to get me out of the track as fast as possible. You can see me, I'm about to climb out. I get one leg out and then realise, oh crap, Bruce is still in the sled. So I go back a little bit, make sure he's all right. And I shout to him, oh Bruce, you all right? And I get a bit of a, so it's fine, he's alive, he's breathing. So that's the medic's problem now.
He started in the World Cup and he's been crashed.
Looked okay out of the 50-50 curve, 13, but he rolled it into 14, which is a common occurrence that you see here.
So once Bruce had made it out of the sled and we made it into the medical office, we had a bit of time for reflection. And I've still got a bit of time for reflection now. And let's see what we've successfully managed to achieve in this 2 minutes of my racing career. I've managed to take enough caffeine to kill a racehorse. I've been upside down and headbutted a wall at 92 miles an hour. I've got cramp in my hands from holding onto the sled as hard as possible so I don't go flying out the back. And I've also got a broken bobsleigh helmet, which I'll be invoicing to you, Bruce, because you still haven't paid me for that. So all in all, I think it's a pretty good experience. And that, kids, is my first ever World Cup race on the BMW World Cup. It was my first international outing as an athlete, as a brakeman, and it was also my first international crash. If you're going to do it in style. But for now, see you next time. Stay safe, COVID-free, don't lick any windows like me. And yeah, bye-bye.